Welcome to On Texas Football. Merry Christmas to everyone out there. It's Bobby Burton, Gerry Hamilton, and the great Tony Hills. It's Hump Day with Hills also. So we wanted to pre-record something with Tony for Christmas for everybody. Tony, welcome into the show, bud. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Thank you for having me, brother. Listen, you know I'm in my favorite place and I'm rocking my favorite shirt, man. So we here. You understand? 24-hour fitness. Stand up.
Hey, Tony, I got to ask you, let's just start it off with that Clemson game and tell us, I mean, you had to be smiling ear to ear the way they ran the rock on Saturday night.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, it's a simple game. The physical team wins. We were the more physical team. And what you see is even in the ebbs and flows of the game, like Clemson, listen, Clemson played a hard game. You got to tip your hats off to them. But even in the ebbs and flows of the game, when you can control a line of scrimmage, it just gives you a higher percentage of not making the mistakes and being able to move up and down the field, right, to get into those scoring positions. And that's what we saw, man. Shout out to the RB, shout out to the O-line, shout out to the game plan. I mean, all those guys executed that thing very well. You could see that Clemson was not they were very strong in the first half, but as the game continued to go on, they started to wear down, right? And so those 3- and 4-yard gains turned into 5 to 6, and all of a sudden, boom, you got 77 yarders being popped. Trey is out there going crazy. 2 backs with over 100 yards and 2 tutties. That's a win, man.
Hey, you talk about Kelvin Banks on that one long run. It wasn't just him. Cole Hudson was out there. You had Trevor Goosby inserted in the game again, going from left tackle to right tackle. You had Hayden Connor moving from left guard to center to replace Jake Majors. A lot of movement for the Longhorns in that, yet they still seem somewhat cohesive in the run game, even late into that contest. Kyle Flood and these offensive linemen have a lot of experience together and with one another. Was that maybe the biggest storyline of the game, in your opinion?
I mean, listen, I've been singing this guy's praises ever since he stepped into the A&M game, and you didn't hear anything about him other than one false start, man. What Trevor Goosby is doing at such a young age is phenomenal. It's a credit to him. It's a credit to his work ethic. It's a credit to the coaches. And it's a credit to, the guys that he's working with, right, with Banks and Williams, man, being able to coach them up and letting them know what they see. So for him to go out there, he's somebody that you obviously know Flood trust. He's proven himself time and time again. And once again, you didn't hear his name called, right? And so I think what happens is that when you lose a Jake Majors and you shift Connor over to center, what ends up happening is you get a bigger body guy. So now if you have some of those interior linemen that are really big, well, we have big on big that's being played, right? So the biggest thing was to be able to make sure that the snap wasn't going to be an issue, and he handled that well. So you got to give him credit for being prepared in that moment. And then Cole, man, that's your utility guy, man. That guy plays all up and through the middle of that line, and he plays well. So it's a credit to being able to have that depth that Sark talks about, and also those guys going in, understanding the game plan and understanding how to play with one another. It was beautiful to see because you're going to have injuries, period and point blank. That's the game.
Tony, I want you to dive more into Trevor Goosby and how difficult this actually is because he doesn't really practice much at right tackle. He's practiced at left tackle.
Yeah.
And it's different steps. It's a different peripheral.
Yeah.
So you have to react different. Talk about how difficult that actually is for a young lineman to play left tackle one week, right tackle the next in meaningful games. We're not talking about UTSA and UL Monroe here. We're talking about A&M, Georgia, Clemson playoff game.
Yeah.
Baptism by fire.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, man, like what a lot of people think is, and you've seen this time and time again, right? We're seeing it now with Broderick Jones over there in Pittsburgh. Like, it is not a simple thing for you just to switch a guy over. You have to think about it, right? What is mastery? Mastery is what they say. Mastery is what 10,000 hours. If that measurement is right or not, who knows? But we all agree to it. So we're sheep. So whatever. But if you think about only taking that particular slide step, only taking those particular angles, getting your feet to the proper place on run and pass block over and over and over and over again, and now it's like, okay, now flip it and go do it on the other side in the live game. That just doesn't happen unless you're somebody that's staying after practice and you're taking those reps on your own. Unless you're somebody that's probably sitting in the lunchroom and getting up and taking those slide steps. Unless you're somebody that sees somebody walking in the hallway. I'm giving you guys some game on what I did. See somebody walking in the hallway and now you're stepping on the right with your right foot and getting the left foot down. These are things that you see. This is the mind games that you see these guys playing to be able to go out there and to perform like that. Here's another thing too, Jerry. You got to think about the dominant arm, right? So if I'm a right tackle and I have to keep if I'm a left tackle and I have to keep my right arm dominant, not to get beat inside, now that whole thing has to switch up on the other side, right? So as I'm used to punching 1-2 in left hand first, right hand second, now I have to go back and totally flip that. Can that cause an overextension? Can that cause me to be in the wrong position, body position? Absolutely, if I'm not getting those meaningful reps. So. But I will say this, it doesn't hurt when you're practicing against one of the top, if not the top defenses in the country. So a credit to those guys over there for being able to get him ready for those particular moments.
I want to go. You just led me into a perfect segue here, Tony. The Texas defense now with 41 sacks on the year. Big time performance by those guys up front. What did you see that you liked in this game against Clemson? Because they got 3 sacks, but they didn't overwhelm Clemson. Yet Clemson had to go to a more quick passing game because Texas was getting pressure early. What did you see there that you liked, didn't like, et cetera?
Well, I mean, look, the first thing that we got to understand is it's not like we're playing some chumps in this game, right? Regardless of what that score is, we're playing the ACC champions. Period and point blank. That's who they are. Regardless of what you want to talk about with schedule, what you want to talk about with the conference, they are the best in that conference that we're playing. Klubnik is a good quarterback. They have good receivers. They have a good offense. So you knew they were going to put up points. What I liked about the defense was the ability to be able to assert their dominance when they needed to, right? The goal line stances, right? Both of those. Being able to get those sacks, right? Controlling the run game when they needed to, making timely stops. These were the things that I liked. I mean, obviously, you want them to go in and dominate every single team that they play, but that's just not reality. And I told you guys last week, at the end of the day, it is about us having more points on the scoreboard than the other team, right? And that's what we accomplished. And so shout out to the defense for doing what they needed to do, because I'm going to tell you how huge that goal line is. If you don't understand how momentum works in college football, you ain't been watching this game long enough. You're dealing with kids. They thrive on the emotion. And so to be able to stop that and then go back out there and then run that clock out like they did, that 5-minute offense, man, that was huge, right? Because at some point, that momentum in that tide was turning, but then Texas defense was able to flip that thing back and the offense finished it off. So that was the complementary football that we've been talking about and we've been wanting to see all year.
I've got to ask you about one play in particular, because it was the defensive play of the game, in my opinion, and that's that Bill Norton stop. I'm sure you've seen it. What if you're an offensive line? Put yourself in the offensive lineman's shoes. Do you say, "I just got whipped"? What do you say?
You tip your hat off to him, man. Like, listen, when you're in that goal line, and this is the thing I love about the trenches, man. You can have some of the proper technique. You can come off the ball. You can fire. But then now here's the intimacy of the game. My will versus yours. Like, you beat me off the ball. You took the right steps. You did everything you were supposed to do. But guess what? I'm not losing, period. Right? And that's what you saw with Bill, man. Like, he had it in his mind that if they try to hit this A gap, it's over. It's lights out. And you got to see the play, dude. He got the lineman hanging on him, right? Got one arm pinned back, tackling another guy, holding him right there with his shoulder pad and the side of his neck. I mean, listen, that's beautiful football to me, man. So shout out to Bill. And that's the thing about this defense, man. You never know who is going to be the guy that makes the play. And it's crazy because as great of athletes that we have with Anthony Hill and Simmons and Baron Sorrell and, Burke, it's the guys like the Bill Nortons and the Lolays, man, that make these plays in pivotal moments that might not go high on the stats, but I can guarantee you in that locker room, they're showing that play over and over again and talking about this is the standard that we set at Texas.
Hey, Tony, I got a question for you, kind of moving on to Arizona State, because smaller defensive front, not the same size guys Texas is used to seeing, some undersized guys, 6'1", 285, fight. Really good player, 6'2", 290. Edges aren't the elite athlete size guys like Texas has been facing. What kind of – I don't know if you've watched Arizona State, but it's playing against a different level guy. What do you kind of see for Texas moving against those smaller guys who maybe low man wins sometimes, but they don't really have the size that Texas is used to playing?
Yeah, what they have to do up front is prepare for movement, right? These guys are not going to sit up there and try to play the power game for you. There's going to be some shifting, kind of similar to how you saw with Georgia, how they would start in a particular front and then they shift to shades and tight fives and move. They're going to be moving all up and down that line. So with Texas, you just got to make sure that your eyes, your hands, and your feet are in the right place. It's almost one of those games to where I like zone. I like zone in this game to be able to catch these backside, the guys that want to go backdoor. You got backside guards being able to cut them off and to create them big holes. And if we can get Blue and Wisner seeing the hole like they did in this game, it's going to be a long night for Arizona State. But that's what I anticipate. I anticipate them putting some pressure on Texas, right? Because you just cannot play a base defense with these guys and think that you're going to stand a chance. You're just not. These guys are used to playing guys that are, 340, 320 pounds, 260-pound freaks, right? So when you get a guy that's, when you got defensive ends playing D tackles with our guys in the middle, man, it's going to be a long night if you're not schematically. You're going to do something schematically to be able to stop the run. It's not going to be with the personnel.
Tony, I've got another question for you coming about pass protection against Arizona State. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor and thank you so much to Adam Lowy and his group over at the Lowy Law Firm for helping injured Texans for 20-plus years. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including an ATV or 18-wheeler, just give Adam and his group a shout over at loweylawfirm.com, and they will give you a free, no-strings-attached consultation. That's loweylawfirm.com. Thank you to Adam and his group. Hey, Tony, Arizona State only has 20 sacks on the year. Okay. That is a abnormally low number for a playoff team, for sure. It's an abnormally low number, period, for any team. What does that mean to you from a pass protection standpoint for Texas?
You anticipate being able to have our guys, our tackles hold up on the pass rush. So there might be, we could potentially see some more deep shots here. We could potentially see, I don't anticipate us seeing a lot of screens. I just don't think that we need it. I think that we see Quinn work the middle of the field, similar to how he ran with Michigan, because at the end of the day, they just can't get home. And look, I mean, you're going against the number one offensive tackle in the league on that left side, right? So that side is quiet. Again, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be schematic, Bobby, the way that they try to inflict pressure on Texas. They're going to try to make sure that Quinn's eyes are in the wrong place. They might be sending some backside blitzes. I could also anticipate some line games, right? We could get some TTs and some ETs and some TEs. Like, they have to be able to schematically do something against Texas, or they're just not going to stand a chance. And then for Texas, it's this simple, Bobby. Just beat Texas, right? We have this thing sometimes, man, where we play down to our competition. I want us to play to our standard, and you have the competition have to come up to us. I just don't anticipate that happening, but we have seen games where Texas goes out there and they just don't do what they're supposed to do at times. They get the win, but they don't do what they're supposed to do at times. This is not one of those games, because in a playoff game, literally, even with all the stacks, the low sacks, guys being undersized, all of that. Here's the one thing that I know. If you get that dog a bone and you don't take it from him, he going to keep biting on it. And eventually he going to snatch it out your hand. And so I just need Texas to go out there and be who they are and do what they do. I'm just not impressed with what Arizona State does on defense. Listen, they've had a magical run. That's great. They've done what they needed to do to be where they're at. But keeping it 100%, they're overmatched with us. We just need to go out there and be who we are.
Hey, I got to ask you this, because one of the things that we were talking about on Coffee and Football on Tuesday was the idea that Texas did not have a long layoff between games, 10-day, or I guess 2 weeks. Now it's going to be 3.5 for Arizona State. Texas only have 10 days between games. You had to deal with that in high school, or excuse me, in college. You had to deal with that in the pros. Is that an advantage for Texas, having played an extra game? And basically, it sounds like they're not really going to have any injuries come out of it that are going to be, keep them out of this game. Is it good that Texas has played one more game, in your opinion, in between the 3.5 weeks, or is it better to have had the layoff like Arizona State?
I think there's pros and cons on both sides, right? If you're Arizona State, you're well rested, you're well energized, you're ready to go, and you're excited, right? There's an acclimation aspect of the game that you have to get accustomed to, and so you're hoping that your guys start fast. That's the biggest thing when you have those long layoffs. But for Texas, I do think that it's an advantage because of the momentum. Like when you come out of a game like Clemson and you feel really good about the run game and how you've established that, and you have that momentum going, you have that continuity going, you have that flow going, you can only anticipate that you're going to be able to continue to keep that. And you've already played it at the high level, at high competition, so you know what everything feels like, right? For Arizona State, okay, they're coming off a Big 12 championship. That's great, but this is their first time experiencing the college football playoff. It's a different atmosphere. And so with Texas already having some of that experience, I look for the situational football moments and the key moments to see which team is better prepared for that. And I would only anticipate the team that's already experienced that the first round out would continue to understand how to adapt in those type of situations versus a team that might have to try to figure it out on the fly. So I think it's a good thing. And here's the other part of that too, Bobby. Like in the league, let me tell you something, 10 days off, that's a bye week. I'm telling you right now, 10 days off. Like the one thing that I loved is like, it sucked when you had to play a Sunday game and then come back and play a Thursday game. That your body's beat to crap, right? But to know you don't play until next Sunday, you have all of that time to rest and recover. Man, when you get out to that game next Sunday, man, you're fresh, you're ready to go. And so I think for Texas, they're in a good spot. And the thing that you talked about is very, very, very crucial. The fact that, the injuries didn't seem to be that significant. Because I can tell you, man, as great as it is to be able to have the guys to step in, and we know what these guys can do if they have to, you want to go in, guns fully loaded, man. And so I'm appreciative that those injuries were not as big as we thought they could have been.
I wanted to, my last thing for you, Tony, I wanted to pivot back to that. Before Cam Williams was injured, that right side, Texas was averaging 13 yards a carry on the right side. I mean, it looked like Cam Williams was contacting people there flying 3 yards.
Yep.
What did you see on the right side of that line? What was it? Just DJ Campbell and Cam Williams just obliterating people? What was it?
Yeah, listen, I think somebody peed in their Cheerios, Jerry, and they just woke up. They woke up ready to get after it. Yeah. And listen, quiet is kept, whether the play is good or the play is bad. That type of physicality, that mentality, that I'm gonna get after it for 4 quarters. Listen, DJ brings that. I really think that DJ is actually the enforcer on that line. He brings that. I mean, ever since I watched the Michigan game with the kid that was being talked about over the defensive tackle. Yeah. I literally watched DJ going to the north end zone on Michigan's I think it was 10-yard line. Pick this kid up out of his shoes and put him on his back. I rewind. Everybody's looking at the touchdown. I'm watching this play like, my God, he just picked up a grown man and put him on his back. This kid, if he continues to work from a technical standpoint, I don't know how you stop him, honestly, because the mentality that he brings to the game is so crazy. So what you're seeing, Jerry, to answer your question, is that he's throwing kids, man. I saw a counter play where he pulled out, and that might have been the Trey Wisener touchdown, where the cornerback, I don't know what the cornerback was thinking, but he tries to fill the gap. And DJ, not only did he catch him trying to fill the gap, but he sent him back where he came from in the air. Like this kid, man, has the mentality that you want to see as an offensive lineman. And at the end of the day, we got to look at this too. The only time that we've had sort of quote unquote struggles, right, is when we've played Georgia. And then quiet is kept. Everybody on that team is an NFL caliber athlete, right? So it's good on good. But when you're playing us versus anybody else, I've seen those type of plays time and time and time again. So it's nothing new to me, man. I've been watching these guys do their thing all season like that.
All right. Tony, thank you so much for joining us. A special edition here of On Texas Football. Thanks again to our sponsor, Adam Lowy of the Lowy Law Firm. And to everybody out there, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, however you celebrate your life with your family and loved ones. We wish you nothing but the best from here at On Texas Football. Tony, thank you again. Thank you, Jerry. And also the special thank you to behind the scenes, our special guy, our special agent, Matt Hutchison, our producer, for doing this as well. For Tony and Jerry, I'm Bobby Burton. You guys have a good one. 1 week from today,
let's get it, baby.
Longhorns going for it. Hopefully going to the national semifinals after playing Arizona State. Hook 'em.